Hi, everyone. Welcome to our painting webinar, weekly painting webinar. Apologies for the delay. We have been spinning in this house just to get ready. It's just amazing how time flies, but we appreciate your patience. We're going to add an extra 5 minutes at the end of the session so we don't compromise the painting time. And so also, let me just do this. Yeah, we're recording the session. Hi, Jen, how are you?
Hi, I'm awesome. Super excited.
Thanks for being there. And I'm sure there are going to be a few things that are going to come up. I already put two paintings that I forgot to mention yesterday. And in fact, I want to bring them up because I think they're amazing. So this is a painting by Lynette, let me see, Lynette Yadom Boakie. And she's a very well-known painter from the UK. And she is a contemporary painter, and she has a series of dancers and actors. I don't know, I just love her work. She does portraiture. She says that she paints from memory. But I thought this was an excellent image stylistically, compositionally. The head of this figure touches the top of the canvas, so I am not approving of, but anyhow. So and finally, or the second painting, this is a David Hockney, 1955. It was so hard to find this painting. It's only in one place. I could not find it anywhere else online. 1955. And I just put it in the folder because this is an example of someone who does not care about what a painting looks like. So in the sense of his style, we can appreciate that this is a David Hockney because of many things, but it's I don't know, it's just unexpected, it's strange, and it's painted the way he wanted to paint it. So there you have it. So we are going to get right into the sketching. Before that, know that we're recording. After 2 hours, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to do our critique session until the third hour. I know that there are a lot of people from all over the world, and we appreciate that so much. On the critique group or session, we're going to start from the eastern side of the world and move back towards the Pacific coast. Unless you have any requests or you have something in your schedule, let us know, and in the chat, or you can text Jen. We put the contact information on the email. So this is our fifth webinar, and if you're watching from the future, thank you. And also we have 4 more. We started with the toasters, Kamala Harris portraits, pillows, clouds, and clowns. How about that? So those webinars are still open. You can register for those webinars if you're interested in compiling an amazing body of work in 2021. We're looking forward to creating at least 50 paintings. We were able to do 51 in 2020. So this year we're committed, and we want to make sure that everything we start, we dedicate as much time as possible. And we're offering a lot of like a studio time sessions in between the week in case you want to sync your practice with us. You don't have to. But we are encouraging you to continue working, because with 2 hours, you guys know that there's very little that you can, not very little, but it's the beginnings of a painting. So I'm just going to switch to my view. Let me just kind of like readjust. And we spend so much time researching. Some of you know, because you joined the Rooflessing Colloquium this week, we had doubts about this subject. I'm going to talk about all those things, but the first thing that I want to talk about is the format. I'm using, oh, by the way, I just got a new board. It's actually a cradled uh, uh, wood panel, and it's a very strange shape, but I realized that I've been suffering putting like different panels behind, clipping them, and now I just got a board that it's big enough to do horizontal or vertical regardless, and have some space for any other images. I highly recommend you get something bigger than you paint, because you may or may not have like a photo, but it's good to have almost like a sort of like a pin board, or a place that maybe you can test your colors. So I have this in the studio. I don't know why I didn't make it more formal here, but I finally did after 10 months. My format is 12 by 16. So finally, and we want to thank Lois for that push. We are incorporating a picture of the palette that we the staple palette. We always start with that palette, and then if we need any extra colors, then we go ahead. Oops, I hope that's okay. We go ahead and we add them, but that's the staple palette with the liquids. So that's going to save us 5 minutes to talk about. Do you have any questions? Let us know. But here's my charcoal. Again, we are addressing this from the point of view, or from the perspective of a portrait assignment. We're excited after 2 sessions in which we painted landscapes and still lifes. It's always a good idea to go back to a different subject matter. And we always encourage everyone who paints to please vary your subject, so you don't get all um, I don't know how to finish that sentence, but yeah, rotate the subject. So it's not always a landscape or a still life. It's always good. Every painting will challenge you in different ways. So if you get too comfortable with landscapes, it's not a good sign. You have to keep rotating your subject. So that's why we're happy about this. So um, 12 by 16, I'm using cotton paper as the base, as the painting surface. So two things, difference between format and painting surface. Format consists of 3 elements: the size, the shape, and the orientation. I'm using 12 by 16, that's rectangular, and it's landscape orientation. And the painting surface is the material. I'm using cotton paper. Depending, I'm saying this because it's so crucial. You may have something on your phone or something on your iPad, and that has one specific format, and then you have a format that's going to be completely different. The first challenge is, how do you translate your elements in one format into the new format that you have? And we don't think about this, but we end up doing some really strange and weird things where the arrangement of objects feels off frame, or like Lynette Diadome Boakie, she just put the head of the clown way too close to the top of her painting. We need to give her a call and let her know. I'm just joking. Obviously, her paintings go for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she was a finalist of, was it a finalist? Maybe Jen, you can tell us. I think she either won one of the Turner prizes in the UK, or she actually was a finalist of the Turner Prize. I believe she won, and she's already had a retrospective, I believe, at the Tate Modern. And also I think she's in her 30s. I don't know. If you want, Jen, if you have extra time, I know you're juggling
Sure.
between
Yeah.
so
I'll
many
look it
things.
up now. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, and what I did was I rushed to print this, because I like to have it right next to the format, but I just align it to the bottom of my format, and then I'm just going to start with the height of my portrait. Again, it just depends on your image, but in my case, I don't want to kind of like hammering, or rather pestering on that aspect of the head being too close to the edge. I want to leave some movement. Let's try to revisit briefly what we have learned in the past few weeks regarding composition, for example, which is we talked about the elements of composition, and the two most important ones are focal points and movement. Focal points, in this case, it may be a little bit easier because it's a portrait, so there's one single person, but still, I want to talk about what a focal point is. A focal point is a part of your painting that's going to concentrate the most attention. And traditionally, it's not recommended to go beyond 3 focal points. So we don't have to worry so much about that, unless we have things on the face or there are hands involved, and then that's a different story. But I believe all the portraits, photographs, the image sources, they have very neutral backgrounds. And movement is how much space you leave for the viewer's eye to roam around um, alongside the focal points of your painting. Movement is not the illusion of something moving or dropping or vibrating. It's the space that you leave. So I want to make sure that in my sketch, I leave space on top, so there's enough movement for the viewer's eye to roam around the focal point. And I think this is very important to start incorporating this sort of like vocabulary or lingo or whatever that's called. Um, so we make our process much more intentional. So once I have that, well, maybe I just kind of like, I'm gonna set up the width, and then I will start with my, maybe my potato shape. I don't know. I'm gonna do an axis line here. So maybe I'll start with the axis line this time. Yeah, axis line, and then I'm gonna align. I'm making alignments, and also the color of the person. Yeah, so the first lines on my sketch are not even, I'm not even in recognizable territory, but I'm just setting parameters. I'm setting heights and widths and axis lines and horizontal alignments. So I'm not even into potato shaped territory, which I always talk about how important it is to set up your basic silhouette. So now that I have these parameters, let me see. I'm just gonna bring um, one of my brushes and then see. Okay, so making alignments. Yeah, I think so. All right, so I'm just gonna start with a potato shape. So I know that this is it's gonna be the chin, right? So and then I'll do my potato shape. It's just gonna be like that. How about that? I don't know. Da-da-da. I'm gonna exaggerate a little bit on the right. All right, so I intentionally don't make any lines inside yet. Well, I have the axis line and the chin, but I just want to make sure that I have a silhouette and I think about what I've got, because I think that's very important for me. Before I start like splitting or anything like that, you don't have to rush. Don't feel like there's an urgency to get something that feels alike or recognizable. In fact, I would encourage you to slow down and to actually feel almost like you're deconstructing that shape in your image and your source image, and finding elements that will help you translate it to your new format. This is so important. It's so crucial. We just jump into details way too early, because this will set up the right course. And I think I'm going to say that, even though the word right and wrong is very, relative, it would set up the right course for the rest of your painting. So you're not on hour 1.8 and you realize that you have to shift everything in your painting. That's nothing more frustrating than that. So I think that's okay, actually. Since this is similar, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to, yep, I'm testing, and I'm testing, and I'm happy with the test. So I'm testing my lines. This sounds good. All right, so now that I have the basic silhouette, I need to make an interpretation on the shoulders. The reason that I chose this image also, it's because of the low key light on the image, and also because there are tons of lost edges. Remember, also bringing back, if you were not able to watch the tutorial, we talked about edges, and one categorization was found edges and lost edges. A lost edge is um, the absence of a distinction between either two colors or two values on a shape. So there's a lost edge between the shoulder and the background right here. There's a lost edge between the iris and the eyebrow right here. It's all the same. There's a lost edge between the hair and the background right here. I love lost edges. It's very Rembrandt like. I mean, I'm not trying to get there, obviously, but um, I am obsessed with lost edges. I want lost edges. Um, Found edges are overrated. I'm not interested. They're not mysterious and dynamic and over found edges. So let's talk about how to move from silhouette to structural lines. On a portrait, we usually determine three main structural lines: hairline, chin line, chin and jaw, if you can find it, and neckline if the person is wearing something. So in my case, there's a hairline that divides the skin or the forehead with the rest of the head. There's a clear chin and jaw line. And then there is a neckline with the choker color. So I'm going to start with those. I'm going to go from broad to specific. No eyes, no eyelashes, no makeup, no nothing, no wrinkles. So I just want to, I'm going to start with that, and then um, broadly, because, I'm just penciling in what I have. So I have my hairline. I have the chin line. Oh, Jen, I have an assignment for you.
Yes.
So if you can find, I think there on Instagram, there's I think that it's either the International Clown Association,
Okay.
and 3 days ago they said that they were going to post the link to the live feed for Sunday for the memorial at the church in London.
Oh! I was. Oh my gosh. This is where
Sorry,
my
my
brain
bad.
went. What are the clowns doing for the Super Bowl? Where my brain went. Okay, let me see if I can find
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
it.
Seriously, that speaks of priorities in my life.
And mine, what
And
about
yours.
mine? It's embarrassing.
No, the opposite.
Not at all.
I'll be tuning with the clowns on Sunday.
I mean, me too.
Oh, that's so funny. All right, so yeah, I think they were saying that they were gonna post, and so I was wondering if they posted the link, and I noticed that on Instagram they have an account. I don't know. I'm not. I know I'm making it hard for you, but um, yeah.
Oh, you're not making it hard. I can find it.
Okay. Uh, Thank you. So, all right. So I'm just like slowly following my own strategy or plan: hairline, jawline, neckline, if I can find it. I'm not rushing. We have time. Part of my job is to facilitate or articulate sort of like a time strategy, time, or help you manage the time rather. Yeah, I think that's very important. Time management, as you know, it's something that it's very important in painting. actually what I'm going to do, you guys, instead of like going inside with facial features, I'm going to go ahead and start shading. So, what forms um, my figure is the actual shade around it. And this photograph was taken by, I didn't have time to find all the sources, but there's a Swedish artist. She's a photographer, and her name is Heta, Julia Heta, and she's a fashion photographer. But her body of work, she recreates images with a very Dutch golden age sensitivity. I don't know, extremely delicate and um, painfully elegant in a positive way. It's just so amazing. I'm so moved by her work. Um, it's so beautiful, and she does portraits and still lives and stuff. And she has this image, which reminds me to the golden age, the Dutch golden age. Was it like 1700, I think, or 1600? Maybe 1600. Um, yeah. So, and again, we're just going for the aesthetics um, of clown art, and we can discuss and talk about anything else later if you guys want to. But because there are a lot of things that we learned, and but ultimately, I will say this: um, after reading this topic from many points of view, from opposite sides of the spectrum, I had my doubts at the beginning of this subject because I was afraid that this would be a tone deaf subject to do now. But now I feel strongly the opposite way. I just feel like clowns are victims of many cultural movements and swings, and it's unfortunate. Um, and it would be interesting to find out what are they trying to do about it. But yeah, and I was also reading about the distinction between clowns, the tradition of clown art in Europe, the tradition of clown art in America, and how each country has different roots, and depending on the collective conscience and the social norms. And it's just very interesting. And you can go country by country, actually. And they were talking about, the article was talking about um, the French tradition of clowns being more romantic and portraying a heartbreak, and the German clowns being more using a different kind of sense of humor. And yeah, it's just very interesting. You could just learn from the idiosyncrasy, I'm gonna find the word, of each society based on the kind of like traditionally clown art. It's fascinating. It's interesting. Of course, sorry, I mean, I have to say it, but most critics argue that the birth of the evil crown came from America, unfortunately. And I think now it's just taking over any of those traditions. And there is a very rich tradition in America prior to the evil clown by Stephen King and the Joker and all that stuff. Very interesting, all this stuff. I just find it fascinating. Um, and maybe, yeah. So here's where I'm at. A few minutes into the first quarter. I mean, I'm sorry, the first half hour. So I think what I'm going to do is talk about the facial features inside of the face. And let me see if I can break it down, because I don't want to spend as much time as a regular portrait assignment. As you know, portraiture requires a little bit more time in regards to measuring and finding ways of molding and integrating the facial features. But with this, I just want to approach it in a different way. So I'm going to be as disciplined as I can with pacing the facial features. I'm going to run through them really quickly. Find your keynote, your keystone. The keystone is the area comprised between the tear ducts and the heads of the eyebrows. It's a trapezoid like, and it represents the intersection between eye level and main vertical axis of the face. Um, Eyebrows always first, from the bottom points of your keystone. Start with the from the tear duct always, and then start sketching the upper eyelid and the bottom lid. They're not the same. They have different qualities. After that, if you want, go ahead and do the iris, but I just kind of like go on to the bottom of the nose, and I try to triangulate the bottom of the nose with the distance between the eyes. We have a tendency of making the faces way too long. Don't worry about the nostrils. We make them too dark. We talked about the anatomy of a nose a while ago. Maybe we can go over it later. And then after the nose, I try to position the mouth. We have a tendency of making it either too close to the bottom of the nose or too far below. So use your silhouette, your potato shape to find out what kind of alignment you can get. That's also a good idea. Sometimes what I do, instead of relying on my eye, I rely on the silhouette of the face, and I use it as a sort of like portrait ruler that dictates or advises me to align certain things along that line. So let me actually do that. So this will be where the eyes are going to be. The nose is going to be right here, and then mouth is going to be right here. So because I have this printed, I mean, I don't know if I should do this, but I am going to do it. And yeah, this is a little bit lower, so I'm just already making changes. And this is fine. And just made the eyes, and this is possibly okay. So I just found alignments for eyes, doing things a little bit differently here. Where is the keystone? So the keystone is possibly like right here. I don't see the eyebrows. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do the shape of the eye. Very soft lines. Maybe consider the axis line as a way of avoiding making the face looking forward. Um, we have a tendency of many things. We have a tendency of making the sky blue and the grass green, and we have a tendency of making all the leaves of the trees the same size, the same color, and oriented in the same position. We have a tendency of making the faces with the same orientation. So there are a lot of things that in painting become opportunities to um, unlearn those habits and rewire our brains to focus on observation and not association. So that's all well said and fine, but it's, yeah, how do you do that? So you have to rely, or you find ways of relying on things that you already have. In my case, this would be possibly the silhouette. All right, so here we go. I'm just gonna do this, and I think that's okay. Again, I just don't want to be too. There was some sort of like pressure, not some sort, a lot of pressure when we did the Kamala Harris, because even though that wasn't important, but since it's a celebrity portrait, we felt almost obliged, if I can use that word, to find some sort of like resemblance. Um, but I think that with this, I feel a little bit more forgiveness in that sense, which is nice. All right, so this is where I'm at right now, and I just want to make sure that this eye really feels integrated with the face. So this eye, it's not even in the middle of the face. It's closer to the actual right side of the. So I'm gonna exaggerate it. I always feel like I end up making the eye way too close when it's on orientation, 3/4 orientation. So I'm gonna exaggerate that a little bit more. I'm gonna exaggerate that. I think that's better. I think that's better. Okay, so that's good. So you have heard me perhaps say about Lynette Joachim Boakie, I think that's the name. Oh, by the way, Jen, did you find anything about her biography, the Turner Prize, or?
Yes, so she was called shortlisted for that prize. Shortlisted for the Turner Prize for her exhibition at Chisenhale Gallery in 2013. Her other awards are in 2006, the Arts Foundation Fellowship for Painting, 2012, Pinchuk Foundation Future Generation Prize, the Turner Prize, shortlisted for the Turner Prize in 2013, and then 2018, Carnegie Prize at awarded at International Carnegie International in Pittsburgh. Amongst the oldest and most prestigious awards in art, the Carnegie Prize honors the top paintings of the year. And she's 43.
43. Thanks, Jen. That's pretty
Sure.
cool.
I listed them underneath her painting.
Oh, okay, thanks.
And I uploaded some pictures from the Grimaldi service over the years. Is
What do
that
you
exciting
think?
or no? It's super fun. It's super fun. Is it? Should I take them down? Do you think it's weird?
No, no, that's
Okay. Okay.
good. That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be good to kind of. I think the same thing. I think it's. Yeah, I love it.
I think they're super fun.
And all ages, all genders,
Yeah.
the kids and stuff. So I like to
Yeah.
see.
The kids are cute.
Yeah. Uh, all right, all right, all right. So I'm just getting really engaged. I have added like some of the makeup stuff, and maybe I'll just do some of the folds. We had so much fun with the pillows that anything that you painted in the past is in a little compartment in our brain, in our hearts almost, I would say. So now I'm just opening that little drawer and then just getting that pillow experience out. I remember the folds and stuff, so I can't wait. And even with the sheerness of the color, reminds me of the clouds. Um, so I'm gonna put that in practice also. So good, the clouds, so good. It was such a nice assignment to spend time with. So good. All right, so I'm done with my sketch, and I think I'm ready for the wash. I'm gonna use Gamsol, and I'm gonna use Van Dyke Brown, and yeah, I wanted to make it dark and moody, and I'll get inspired. So let me just finish that. I'll get inspired by not only Julia Heta, but also Lynette in that dark light. That would be my stylistic inspiration. This is a little bit like when you design, when you design, when I see a designer design, that they pick samples of, okay, I'm going to use this fabric and that's going to be this texture. And then they do a little bit of research with different styles. I see Keon do this all the time when he comes up with a new line. He buys magazines and he does his scrapbooking and stuff. So since we are approaching this from the point of view of fashion and aesthetics and combining those two, I feel like it makes more sense now than ever to think about different styles and different inspirations, and it just helps me if I don't have like this setup in my mind. I just feel I'm not enjoying my journey. So I like to feel that inspiration. And there's something to be said about the design process, that it's so good, and we could incorporate that into our own painting process. We think of yourselves as painters way too in way too high of our regard. Why not learn from other fields, creative fields, and see how those things could benefit our own practice? And I feel like this sort of like scrapbooking and thinking of styles um, is helpful, and that's why I think roughless, the roughless, the Roofless Dog and Pony Show is helpful in that sense, to compile different paintings. It helps me a lot. All right, so enough talking. And well, let's kind of like take a little bit of a mini break, and I'm going to show you the service paintings. I think now that we are all in, because Jen, I gotta tell you, I didn't want to post them before. Now you guys are in. Oh my gosh, these are so good. Dina, thanks for bringing. Oh my gosh, that looks good. But I didn't want to scare anyone who potentially wanted to join.
Yeah, it's funny. I as soon as I saw your face that I'd posted them, I was like, oh, maybe that was the
No,
bad
no, no, no. You
decision.
guys are in. So now, yeah, but this is the service. I love this so much when I saw it first, that I put it in the calendar to remind myself a year later. I mean, the quote unquote priest, they do performances, and anyone can join apparently. So it's not just for clowns. I mean, come on. Yeah. So, um, and yeah, this church has this year will be the 75th anniversary of the service. um but yeah, thanks, Jen. This has been in the past. I can see the time out magazine, and also this was a newspaper. I think in the UK, I don't know, I know
Yeah,
that we have Chloe joining us today, but I think in the UK there's a little bit more of a reference about this specific date. But this year, nothing. I didn't see absolutely um, anything. But anyhow, so yeah.
yeah. There was another article that I posted was from the Guardian, and that's where most of the pictures are from. And they talked about one from 2018, and then Time Out just posted where you can live stream it
Oh,
this.
yeah.
So I included that link in the notes.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Awesome. Um, I'll be there. I'll just switch between that and the break, the Super Bowl, and see the weekend.
Oh yeah, totally. And the Puppy Bowl. There's lots going on.
The what?
The Puppy Bowl.
What's that?
Oh, Julio, it's the best. I think they have a cat one too. Um, it's something they do every year during the Super Bowl. They have a puppy bowl, and it's always rescued dogs, and they they just film them basically in this pin, and and they have little like footballs in there, and sometimes they make a football field and or like a soccer thing.
Really?
Yeah, and they just film them, and then they have announcers that are like, and Bruno shoots and he scores,
Oh
and
my
like,
gosh.
will Kitty Cat come to the rescue? Little stuff like that. And then they have cheerleaders, little animal
Okay.
cheerleaders. It's super cute.
Done. I'm watching that. I've
Yeah.
never heard of it, met anyone who told me to, but that is amazing. I
Yeah,
love that.
when we used to go to, last year, um, we would have like, one room would be the Puppy Bowl, and all the other rooms would be the Super Bowl, but the Puppy Bowl's super.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of the dogs get rescued, so, or they get
Oh,
forever homes, I should say.
okay. That is so beautiful and amazing. And I don't know, it just like speaks volumes about the regard for animals. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful to see this, I have to say.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm definitely just gonna add it to the list. Send me a text or something where to watch it when it happens.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll put it in the notes also.
Okay. Yeah. And oh my gosh. Remember last year? You guys, last year we did the superb owl painting.
That's right. What are we doing? Always do owls.
Oh my gosh, I think that was one of the last um, painting webinars of the pre-pandemic time or era. We have pictures, and that was so much fun. Oh, maybe next year we'll do puppies.
Yes, please.
Say that again.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Or just Tom Brady. Just Tom Brady. That could be beautiful too.
Okay. Yeah. That'll be the X-rated version of it.
Seriously.
I'm all for it.
Good.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. All right. So good. Yeah, thanks. Sorry guys. So I hope you are washing or staining rather. I just ran out of the Van Dyke Brown, and I'm just gonna bring some Van Dyke Brown and just continue darker to lighter. Why are we staining? We're making a transition from dry to wet. That does two things. It primes the painting surface. Notice that I'm not talking about format anymore. I'm talking about painting surface, and it primes the painting surface and it seals the charcoal. It's a very technical approach. I'm flickering my eyes back and forth. I'm not trying to be exact. I'm not trying to create found edges necessarily. I think in terms of blocking out, um, I'm gonna lose a lot of lines, but that's okay. But I need to do this step um, first. I think that's okay. We can always darken things later. And then what else? I'm just gonna use my ecru tone maybe and try to simplify. I'm trying to stick with neutrals. I know that there's color, but I'm just gonna stick with neutrals and yeah. I'm not judging my own work. I'm not. I try to keep calm in the sense of like knowing my expectations here and being realistic about those expectations. So I know that this is a very preliminary stage, and yes, I'm not trying. For me, the best way of keeping calm because painting is um, it's very challenging emotionally, I would say, is to try to um, understand that I'm in the middle of a process that builds onto itself. And this is just the beginning. And it's a combination of being able to articulate where I'm at and also to know that always I always have a way out. I have a way out. So there's no corner wall or the sinkhole that will trap me. So I feel like the combination between um, understanding where I'm at in the process and knowing that I will always have a way out contributes to me feeling like I just need to keep working. um, and I mean, it's easy to articulate this, but yeah, it's not easy to kind of like put it in practice. I would say so. I recognize that at this stage, a lot of emotions um, they they flood our sense of security, and we feel like this may not be good enough, or um, you know, not knowing exactly where we're going with it. So there are a lot of like things that um, are not helping us find confidence. But I'm not focused on that. I know that again, as I said, I know that there's always a way. There's always a way out. So I'm just gonna put this wash without the makeup. Just gonna do this without the makeup. Ooh, he looks angry. So I'm just gonna have to work on that. And there's a similarity of value on the actual. It's not white, or it doesn't look white, I should say. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wash the tool of the color with the same color. So again, trying to stick with neutrals. If you have an accent color, you may want to consider applying it, but be very careful. Just because color um, early in the process um, could be a red flag. If you want to put red, straight red on it, I suggest put burnt sienna instead. If you want to put yellow, start with yellow ochre. If you want to put blue, use the Payne's gray and a lot of turpentine. Rather than committing to actual um, saturated color, you can always use um, a neutral version of it. So here we go. Yeah, I think that's okay. So this is my wash. And already my mind, it's kind of like thinking, yeah, that I want to start changing things and moving things around and stuff like that. Oh, and by the way, yeah, you can use the rag if you need to empty out any of the values. Um, so that can it can help you. So I just wrap my finger and then I just empty some of the values. You can sculpt your painting a little bit with that. So anyhow, I don't want to spend too much time with this because it could be really engaging. But going back to where I'm at, I think, yeah, I'm okay. So uh, let me try to explain my thought process. So at this point, I have two paths. I could just feel overwhelmed by the sense of lacking absolutely everything. I don't have detail, I don't have color, I don't have any edges, and feel really anxious. Or the other path would be like taking a little bit of a break and saying, am I happy with the actual arrangement? This is a good opportunity to stop and find out if there's anything about focal points and movement that you can revisit and say, well, yeah, this actually worked the way I wanted. Or no, this is like off frame, or something's way too squeezed and creates an interruption in flow, or there's a blocking of that movement of the viewer's eye. Observe and reflect on arrangement. And this, to me, is the difference between being brutally realistic. I cannot really judge this based on likeness or detail, or being extremely unrealistic, expecting that my stage would just look brilliant already right now. So these are things that are running parallel to our process, and they affect us more than we think. And so it's good to reflect on our own process and see how we go about it. All right. After the diatribe, I think it's called diatribe, I am going to move to first notes. And whoa, it's almost 1 hour. That's nuts, but it's okay. So, first notes, I switched the brush. I'm going to bring my old hairy guys to help me. I have one that is totally messed up with the edges, but it has a weird shape. And I have another one. I don't know, where's the other one that it's kind of like open and totally ridiculous. So the other day we hosted a private session at Jennifer's house, and when we pack, it's sort of like a mess because we just pack and leave. And I was driving in the car and I thought, oh my gosh, did Jen take my hairy guys? And then I went to bed and I had that in my mind. And then I prepped for the next session and I saw the box with the brushes. And then I just told Jen, thank you so much.
I wouldn't dare touch your hairy guy.
No, no. So yeah, anyhow, it's just like a testament of how close and attached we get to our own brushes sometimes, especially when we use them a lot. And then we have our people, our hairy people. All right, so I'm switching the liquids now. I'm just doing the medium with the oil, and I'm just gonna go darker to lighter. And this will be an opportunity to start creating the beginnings of certain edges. So this is a little bit darker. Again, I'm just going to from broad to specific. I'm thinking of the strategy for this, the remaining time. Um, just knowing that I do want to get into the facial features, I'm gonna uh, find out where I'm at in half an hour or so, because I want to give myself half an hour to perhaps work a little bit on those elements, um, the facial features. But I cannot tell you how important it is to work on the peripheral areas. The areas that are not necessarily the focal point of our painting are as important. And I like to start with those most of the time. Those areas, I feel like it's an efficient way of moving fast without committing. Um, uh, Before I decided on this kind of like approach, I thought moving fast meant adding stuff, adding the eyeballs and the pupils and adding the lips and adding color. I thought that that would just really push me far ahead. And what I found out that it did push me, but it pushed me either into a corner or into a sinkhole. Because once I added, I could not undo as easily. So I learned by experience not to commit too much at the very beginning. And a good way to move things forward without committing is to work on your peripheral areas, the non-focal points. So only a suggestion. I mean, you guys work at different speeds, and everyone has different formats, um, meaning sizes, and obviously different images. So I know that I love that some of you, Mia and Hania, I don't think Hania is joining us today, but you guys use canvas, like bigger canvas. And Mia, by the way, I love your pillows. I wonder if you had a chance to add some work on the pillows, but that's an amazing painting. And also I love that Hania uses like bigger canvases. And then we from that to 4x6 wood panels, equally challenging if you ask me. So um, it just depends of many factors, but what it doesn't change is the approach. And in that sense, consider your peripheral areas. Consider your peripheral areas, because they will help you move fast, without committing too much to something that's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to manipulate. Again, what I said earlier stands. There's always a way out, regardless of where you are. There's always a way out. Um, and I am running out of Van Dyke Brown. So I was reflecting yesterday. I was crafting or putting together the emails, looking at the images on the folders, and finding things that would be clown-like but not super clown-like, and trying to stick with the actual um, assignment in regards of like bringing um, references. And I was thinking of the few sessions that we've done so far, from the toaster to the clouds. And I'm looking at those paintings. I have those 4 paintings, and I gotta tell you guys, it's so satisfying to actually recognize advances and progress from 4 paintings ago to the last one. I felt so excited and motivated. I'm not saying this just because I want to make anyone feel bad at all, but um, if we can push you to, you know, continue your work, or, think of what you've done not just as exercises, but as formal creations, uh, I think you'd be surprised of how much your progress uh, develops. Um, I am on mine, so I'm trying to also find ways to motivate myself um, to continue demanding more of my work, because ultimately that is important. So I just want to let me just finish with this wash. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm doing like a first notes, medium brush. What are first notes? The first notes is sort of like mosaic like, puzzle like blocks, color blocks that build on opacity, built on the actual staining, and they give you a sense of different facets, or sections, or parts, or components. It's a very, I wouldn't even say pixelated, because that's a grain smaller, but blocking out. So a very important stage before we start developing values and blending and stuff like that. We jump from linear to blending right away. Oh, I'm just gonna go on a couple of tangents right now. So I went to print this to Kinko's. The universe is amazing. Okay, well, let's just put it this way. And of course, the copy machine was broken. So screw the universe. But no, because there was a painter there, and this painter brought the paintings that she did to Kinko's, because she wanted to take pictures and do prints. And they said, yeah, we can do that here. So uh, it was interesting. It was good. But um, and I'm gonna start saying that I recognize myself in this painter, because she was asking the person behind the counter which one she liked more or less. There was this sense of finding approval almost that was like um so embarrassing, but embarrassing like from my own point of view, like, you know what, yeah, we won that. Anyhow, so I go to the printer that wasn't working, and then she grabs my attention, and she starts saying, excuse me, which one? And then I immediately cut her off and say, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I felt so
Oh
bad
no. Oh,
because I
what
thought
a
this could be
nightmare.
me.
Oh, never.
I know, I felt terrible. It was so bad. But anyhow, so I'm saying the universe is amazing because there are lessons everywhere. So this is a lesson to continue working, work, just raw work. It's so important. Um, and recognizing that sometimes we have that, we feel that um, pull to, find approval or motivation in others. And it's such a strong pull, but I don't know, it's good to recognize it. It happens, but ultimately we have to put the work. We have to put the work. We have to demand ourselves more every time, demand of ourselves more. Right. So I'm just adding, perhaps what would do is just bring my painting hack, which is the cellophane, because I feel like I want to study the color as I usually say. Yeah, I can see that that's too light. I usually say this when we mix color, it's amazing what the brain thinks and what the color actually looks like. Yeah, it's a little bit of Van Dyke Brown and ecru. So yeah, I think that's good. So I like to study color. I like to understand that my brain will just come up with something totally weird and not related. And what I do here is just take a little bit of time and study, try to articulate or unpack, um, yeah, deconstruct the color. It's a little bit of yellow ochre here. It just helps me because I know that otherwise the brain, it's not yellow ochre. You guys, yellow ochre is the least, it's the color that we use the least um, in general. And we know of this because we check when we buy color, how often we buy color. And it's amazing. I mean, so much so that we did one yellow ochre assignment just to make sure that we brought attention to this color. But yeah, it's the least used color in our palette. It's interesting. All right, so I'm just kind of like bringing those. Um, all right, so yeah, so I'm doing first notes. Uh, I find it very helpful always when I feel like I don't know where I'm at or what I'm doing. I find it helpful to pause briefly and understand, what I said I was going to do, and recognize we kind of like which kind of like chapter or segment of that process I'm doing. And I'm still on first notes, and I'm just working on this area right here, and I'm using my big hairy guy, which is working fine. And trying to bring some of the medium and some of the paint. All right, so I think that's okay for now. I think that's okay for now. Yeah, yeah, no expectations. Don't worry about the look of things. There's a lot of, as we know, there are a lot of layers that need to happen before we actually. I'm gonna bring my other hairy guy. A lot of layers that need to happen before we actually start creating values and details and enriching the composition and all that stuff. So I think that's also very important. And this assignment or this, it reminds me a little bit to, and by the way, yesterday I was uh, looking at my phone, of course, because you know what, it's just, yeah. And I realized of the name, the date farmers. There's one painter that we brought in the portfolio, and I kept saying date, 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 and I forgot the date farmers. And yeah, oh yeah. So now I know why I brought that up, just because in the paragraph that we posted on the date farmers, uh, they list all the materials that he uses for paint. Everything recycled, and we made the connection of all those materials, how much part of the actual clown art conceptually, that is, just pulling from different sources and creating something completely amazing. So I loved, I'm proud of myself of that connection. If you guys allow me. And at the same time, I feel like, um, not only I love that connection, but I feel like this could be a different way of approaching our portrait, um, in the sense that this portrait could be done in a more fragmented but yet uh, integrated way that creates a different kind of like illusion, um, sort of like conceptually bringing that aspect of a clown creating an entire world and reality using the treatise, I think that's the word, remains and garbage. And in that sense, I know that's a big stretch, and sometimes, but I do agree with some writers that say that drag queens are sort of like modern clowns, in the sense of using, I mean, I don't know if you've watched Drag Race. I don't watch it anymore, but it's a show where contestants, they have to create outfits using uh, discarded materials, garbage, 99-cent store stuff. And it's so amazing to see come up with those things, the wigs and the hats and the shoes, and so freaking creative. I mean, so I love that. And I love that comparison. And anyhow, but just going back to what I'm doing first notes. I'm trying to build darker to lighter. And I'm still using the brush, the darker brush. And I'm sorry, the one of the old hairy guys. Whoops, that's too dark. And checking my time. Yeah, I said the last half an hour. So what I'm gonna do right now, it's I'm gonna start bringing some color, some pink. So let's be a little bit. I'm talking about myself. Let's be to myself. Let's be a little bit more focused. Um, so I'm bringing some tones. And my advice with portraits, okay, is regardless if you're using big canvas or small canvas or anything, build your bone structure first. Do not attempt to bring realism to the eyes or the mouth or the nostrils. Create a different, as if you were chiseling the face. And by chiseling, I mean just bringing different facets or faces on that face. So that's what I'm doing right now with mosaic like brushstrokes. I'm trying to build the bone structure. And what is the bone structure? The bone structure is the highs and lows in value reflected on the skin. Bone structure is determined by value, the quality of light. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And I'm not blending. I'm not blending. I am blending on the palette. Remember what I said, blend on the palette mostly and don't blend on the painting yet, or try to refrain yourself from blending too much on the painting. Um, I'm sort of like reminding, not that you guys need to listen to this nonsense, but let's try to incorporate what we've learned and what we've talked about. And um, I mentioned the focal points, but I'm bringing up now the fact that it's better to concentrate with blending on the palette rather than blending on the painting too much. So create your values on the palette. Don't just mix the color on the palette and then try to match the value on the painting, because what's going to happen is that that area is going to start expanding, and then instead of having different facets on that bone structure, you're going to be stirring that porridge color, over and over. And yes, I use the word porridge. Some of you are familiar with that term.
Our East Coast friends are freaking out right now. Porridge!
I know. Where the heck is Charlotte? I mean, seriously.
Yes.
I haven't heard from. I thought she was gonna join us, but it would have been fun. Sorry, but yeah. So blend on how to avoid premature. Oh, that's an awful word. Obviously, premature porridge. Blend on your palate. Blend on your palate. I'm gonna actually force myself, although that is also an awful um, expression, to continue working with one of the old hairy guys. Sometimes there are many ways that people can traumatize us, even as adults, and one of them is when people correct us. Um, they think they're not causing much um, impact, but boy, they have no idea. So think of times when you have been corrected by a friendly friend. I'm not talking about the jerks of the world. Um, so yeah, someone once told me that they don't like to use the word force, and in retrospect, this person, Jen, this person is now working for a Reiki, yeah, advisor in a hospital.
Oh,
So
wow.
he actually goes to he lives in the UK. He goes to hospitals and he practices Reiki there. Um, and I'm preempting or yeah, I'm using this pre whatever explanation because he believed in the power of words, even when talking with someone, not on a Reiki session. And he says that sometimes we use words that um, create almost like violence, So using the word force. So yeah, he got me, okay. But now I'm just, every time I use it, I'm like, oh gosh, I feel so self-conscious. Everything has a perspective, I guess. All right, so I would love to check out what he's doing. Maybe I don't know. All right, so I'm just kind of like bringing. I haven't brought color yet. I'm using the big brush, and I'm already realizing that I have to move things around because the mouth was way too close to the center of the face. So I'm gonna stick with this monochromatic palette for now because I feel like that's helping me just not only concentrate on value, but also create that darker mood. So I'm just gonna throw another judgment or criticism that I didn't finish earlier. You have heard me say that there's no way. I believe there's no way that Lynette paints from memory. I mean, I know that that's probably gonna have to pay with some karma coins. But being a painter myself and knowing how much observation and how much the brain simplifies things, I always believe that when I saw her work and I heard her say that she paints from memory, I don't believe it. I shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say that. And I almost feel like that's her. Everyone who talks about her or reads and stuff say no, everything's done by memory. It's just I don't believe it. Sorry, Lynette. I don't believe that. Um, But Chloe is joining us, so maybe she can later tell us more about what she's found out, because she has her book, and then I think she started reading it. So perhaps there's something that we're missing here that. All right, so yeah, again, what I'm doing right now, just incorporating darker values, and I'm already, I said half an hour, but I'm already in um, adding the darker notes. This is something that has to do is exclusively with the oil paint. If you have any white pigment and you want to darken that area, the white pigment will make it very hard. It's just really hard to darken one area, and then when we feel like with paint we cannot do it, we start adding much more paint, and then we create an area that has too much paint. It's hard to manipulate. So I find myself in that situation here because I use ecru to make it darker. Ecru contains white in it, and now that I want to make it darker, I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. So I just brought a little bit of Payne's Gray, which I'm not happy about that temperature, but that's okay. And then I'm just gonna bring that red and bring the mouth to the right. I mean, I'm sorry, to the left. I need to narrow the space between the silhouette and the facial features on the left. Okay, I think I'm okay. Did I finish the first notes? Let me just do this. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to bring the notes, the blue and the red. All right, so I need to bring my blue Ziploc and my red Ziploc. And if you haven't already, know that there's nothing more frustrating than wanting a color and not finding it. And I almost feel like the colors conjure. I don't know if that's the verb. They conjure not to show up when you want them, and then you start digging, and they don't show up. So um, just group them by temperature or by color. I have this shouldn't be here. No, yeah, it should. The purples and the reds right here, and I have all the blues right here. So they can't escape. So boom, I wanted alizarin crimson, and it takes me no time to find it. I know that's super silly, but I've been there. I just try to find something, and the color hides. It feels as if the color doesn't want to be used. And then I'm gonna use cerulean for the other thing, and I'm gonna use yellow ochre. I'm not gonna bring yellow. All right, so the makeup, I think I'm gonna transform the makeup a little bit because I have there's sort of like the way it's applied. It's by overlaying different kind of like masks, different shapes with different colors. Although I like it, I just feel like the mask gives me almost like a superhero vibe. I'm not sure if I'm gonna follow the same distinction. Let me give it a try. So because I don't want to create too much whoops, pigmentation, I want to test my colors. And then here, I'm going to switch to a brush that it's a little bit tighter. Find it. Where's my, okay, here we go. I got it. So shorter bristles, it's a I'm sorry, a flat brush with a cat's tongue shape, which is slightly round. So the ferrule is flat, so that's considered already a flat brush because of the ferrule. But the shoes, right? The shoes, right, Jen? Of the bristle. Is it the shoes or the
The
head?
toes, the
The
toes.
toes.
Close.
I love that. The toes of the bristles are round; they're not flat, and I like that a lot. I don't like super flat brushes, so I think so. The toes, and then what is the part that it's right next to the ferrule? So it's the belly, the toes. I'm sorry, Jen.
No, no, no.
You
It's
don't have
okay.
to.
No, let me look it up because I don't know it. But you know, you're talking about the superhero look, Julio.
Yeah.
So Henry had in his art class, they're making comic strips, and one of the things that the teacher talked about is how the primary colors are associated with superheroes. And so I wonder if it's more of the color of the than the shape, like of the
Wow.
mask that you're seeing that makes it feel superhero-y.
That, yeah, that's so interesting.
I
But
know I didn't think about it, but then when I did start thinking about the primaries, I was like, or the superheroes and primaries, I was like, oh yeah,
wow, thanks for
totally.
sharing that. Yeah, there's got to be
Yeah,
some kind of like color psychology or color theory in that for
yeah,
sure.
ain't that the truth? Next lesson.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm just kind of I love this so much. There's something about um costumes and transforming yourself. There's a reason why so many people consider Halloween their most favorite not holiday, but yeah, yeah, holiday. That act of transforming yourself, so much creativity and fun. Um, I prefer to associate clowns and stuff with that aesthetic aspect. Maybe it's something that's personal, the creativity involved, the element of surprise, uh, 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 the departure from reality. There's so many things that as an artist, I feel like they're so stimulating and interesting and inspiring. And so, um, yeah, anyhow, sorry, I just got carried away, but I feel like I feel for clowns. I'm so sorry that now they're being hijacked by the far right and um, I wouldn't call it the far left, because to me in my book there's the left is never far enough left. It should be more. But the elements of being out of touch, and then uh, not being inclusive and so, or representation, I totally understand those aspects. But anyhow, um, let's kind of like put that aside and just bring our own experience. And knowing how the world goes. By the way, I want to bring the Darlene the other day enlightened us with an article in the New York Times talking about this sort of like new trend in decoration or interior design, I should say. It's called Grand Millennial. And I haven't read the article, so sorry, Darlene, but it's sort of like a return to vintage historical pieces from our grandmothers and grandfathers, I should say, excuse me, and grandparents, perhaps even better, uh, uh, used in a contemporary way. So there's a lot of very exuberant wallpapers with furniture belonging to that hasn't been stripped or transformed. It's just like that furniture, vintage pieces with a different kind of arrangement and combination. And it just makes I'm saying this because perhaps in a few decades, hopefully years, clowns will come back and become a new trend or whatever. So I just wanted to, I mean, I don't want to tarnish their image, obviously, because to me, the result of this session is to find appreciation for the historical aspect. But there's another dark element of clowns. The what's that gang? The far right, the Boogaloo gang, that they dress with clown paraphernalia. I don't know if I should even use those two words together. And they're extremely aggressive and anti-minorities, and they're a bunch of thugs and stuff like that. But that's an example of how elements of culture have hijacked that aesthetic and turned it into something disgusting. And I just feel bad. I just feel bad. Um, Anyhow, so I'm just gonna study now the actual pink and bring it. I brought alizarin crimson, as we know, is the queen of reds.
I like that you said queen.
Say that again.
I like that you said queen instead of king.
Oh, yeah, of
Um,
course.
and then the part of the brush that you're looking for, Julio, is the heel.
The heel. Ah,
Oh, it's all the foot. We gotta remember.
so beautiful. The heel
Yes.
and the toes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, Jen.
Sure.
So just adding some still first notes, and I'm giving myself, yeah, I think that's good. I'm giving myself maybe just a couple more minutes, and then I'm just going to jump to second notes. Yeah, so our paintings will be ready for the reentrance of clowns as fantastic, inspirational stuff. We'll have these paintings to prove we were ahead of our time. I truly believe that, honestly. So we'll see. Uh, all right, I'm gonna make a quick. Well, let me just find the lips right here. Oh, and by the way, I feel the other day I was watching. Kian and I were watching a series. So the fashion brand Gucci released mini or short films, because now it's not possible to do normal fashion shows. The major fashion brands are releasing short films, and Gucci released a series of 7 short films that I highly recommend you guys watch. They're directed by Gus Van Sant and I forgot the designer's name, Michele, something Michele, I believe. And they are clips of daily life in a normal city, or in a city, I should say, of people doing mundane things, but wearing Gucci clothes. So there's a main character, and she wakes up, feeds the fish, practices yoga, watches TV, goes to the post office. So in each of the clips, there's a little bit of a story, and then there are images of the clothes. And I can't help but notice that specifically in Gucci style, there is a sense of almost clown couture. Nothing matches, everything's bold, big patterns, oversize everything, or super tight. It doesn't really matter. So I'm not. I know I'm making a huge connection here between a fashion brand and clown fashion, but I just feel like maybe there's more to clowns that we want to accept in um, art. They're much more, or there have been and are much more influential than um, we want to believe. I'm asking this open-ended question myself. Okay, so I'm just gonna do second notes right now. So the um, next half an hour, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue with a small brush, the medium brush, the uh, cat's tongue, and then I'm gonna create highs and lows within the area of the face. So I'm deciding a few things. I'm not going to work on the background, and I'm going to leave this for another session because I feel like this requires a little bit more work. But I want to conclude this session or reach a conclusion of this first session for me by working highs and lows on around on and around the facial features. So that means that the pixelation of the first notes that I've already have right here, I'm going to create variations of that uh, value wise. So the difference between first notes and second notes is in the size of the brushstroke. Instead of blocking, I'm using more of a pixelated brushstroke. Perhaps I could use some blending, but in a very controlled way on the surface. And the idea is to widen the spectrum of variation of value on color. Well, I should say value, period, while at the same time start to manipulate or mold or work with the quality of the edges. And if there was something this past week that was amazing was to go over edge quality in painting and how fundamental and effective and incredible it is, and how much we ignore it. I feel like our edge game is not it's not up there at all. We need to um, up the edge ante. Yeah, yeah. Um, soon to be Nobel Prize in literature, Julio Panisello, next year, 2022. Watch. I use that and I feel like so important. All right, so I'm gonna start with the darker side and try to bring some lighter elements. So this is an opportunity not only to create variations of colors, I mean, of values, I'm sorry, but also move the edge of things. And I need like a tiny, tiny brush because I want to bring some dark notes in my painting, some darker darks, because I feel like this is going to be very important. So I'm going to concentrate. The way I apply the brush strokes, I'm hatching. Um, I'm hatching the strokes. Yeah, and this, I'm very excited. Portraiture is always an exciting subject, obviously, and now it takes a while to really get in. And I feel like now I am getting to a place where I can start developing some variations. I'm gonna make sure that I keep in mind the idea of um, moody light, you know. So, because I want to make sure that this has enough lost edges. I want to practice that. I was really inspired um, to just bring that in my work. Uh, yeah, so I'm using the tiny brush just to shave. I need to resketch. I'm moving things at this stage almost like half an inch. So don't think for a second that the location of what you have is set in stone, um, because it's not. As you add more elements, you'll realize that certain things need to be readjusted. And I totally am shaving from the left side because it definitely needed, yeah, it needed a lot of shaving. So repositioning, it's constantly it's like a moving target. And I am now proceeding to darken the lips. The upper lip is darker, and the lower, below the bottom lip, it's also darker. So that area determines the protrusion of the lip. Yeah. Whoopsie, that's too it's too colorful. So let me just kind of like tone it down a bit. It's too much color, too much color, too much color. I just want to make sure that this is not super colorful and it remains moody and dark. There's something about the darker light on this image that brings this sense of romanticism that I associate with clowns also. Not just the kind of like craziness and humor, and but a different side. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Second notes, I'm not changing color too much because I know what it does. What I'm doing is just working with values. And I think that's okay. Slowly, it's a slow process. Don't be super hard on yourselves. You guys are doing an incredible job. Your paintings are always exceptional and so beyond, amazing. So don't be too hard. It's a process. It's a slow process. Painting, it's a slow art. Um, all art is slow, if you ask me. That's the condition of process art. I'm constantly changing positions. The nostril is way too far to the right. I need to just rein it in and bringing it a little bit to the left. I see it right now. It wasn't that clear before. um, so I'm bringing darker shadows on top of the nose. um, Try to also change the pressure of the brush against the surface, because sometimes you can get something to stick on your painting by just being super gentle when you apply the brush stroke. So the amount of pressure you put against the painting will determine also a few things: the size of the brushstroke, but also the amount of paint that you can leave on top of it, on top of whatever layers you may have. Again, going back to what I mentioned about um, the things that make me feel okay through this really difficult journey. I know that I can um, get myself out of any situation. And I know that it's important to find out where I'm at. Um, and in that sense, I know that this will be a work in progress for a while. So I just have to be realistic. I know that I can make this so much better than what it is. I know that with a little bit of extra time and a few extra sessions, this will transform into something that almost has nothing to do with what I have right now. Knowing that, and knowing that I cannot put myself in a box because there's always a way out, makes me feel motivated to not only continue, but to not be afraid of what I currently have. So, yeah, this is an exercise in self confidence as much as it is an exercise in technique and practice and all those things. Um, I look at the clown of David Hockney, and it's ridiculous. It looks, as a painting, I would not pay $5 for it. There, I said it. But I have so much respect for the painting because he, um, doesn't didn't care less about painting a clown the way he did. He just did it. It's of course it's not. I wouldn't think that's his best work for a second. I wonder how proud or not proud he is of this. You cannot find it again in many places online. So, which tells me that perhaps, you know, but that didn't stop the painter from doing it. So, um, I don't know. I just love that. I think that's very important. So I'm just continuing with this and trying to blend a little bit. So now that I have this, I can blend a little bit more. I'm just doing the corner of the mouth and try to keep things. Um, okay, that's good. I need to bring some of the darker. I'm gonna create a lost edge on the mouth. Fantastic. That was a good decision. I'm so happy that I messed it up a little bit. And I'm gonna make that edge a little less defined. I think this edge is um, too found. The magic of lost edges. It just went over my head for years. And this week it was such a revelation to talk about it and discuss it and see examples of it. It was so um, such a game changer. All right, I'm bringing even that edge of below the cheekbone even closer. Every stroke is contributing to progress. I'm really enjoying applying what I've learned in the past 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. I try not to dismiss all this experience that I had with composition, with values, with edge quality. Bring it to your practice, experiment with it. You'll be amazed. We've really touched so many great um, elements. All right, so I have a few minutes. I'm just gonna continue with developing the second notes on the face only. On the face only. I'm doing the jaw. I'm just gonna bring some zinc white, which is more transparent, and maybe some gray, and maybe some paints gray. So to keep it really, and ooh, that's way too high key. I need to lower this tone. Okay, maybe this could be a good. Just trying to bring. That's too colorful. I need to tone this down. It's not working. It's too. It's too blue. It's too blue. It's too blue. It's okay. Just gonna let it there. I'm not liking it. I want to concentrate the tones on the face, but I will just go back later and then do something much more muted and neutral. I love that this is challenging me to keep my colors neutral and desaturated. It's so hard to do that. And it makes me realize that we go to pigmentation like, there's no tomorrow. We don't even question it. We use color like indiscriminately, but we need to pay attention because maybe this is an opportunity to just tone down or become a little bit more tonal in our color application, perhaps or maybe the focal point in this painting, it's actually color. We talked about 3 focal points or less. So maybe the focal point in this painting, maybe it's not the portrait, maybe it is color. So that's a new way of approaching this that makes me feel happy. Let me just work on the eyes and see if I can just, all right, before I get too caught up with highs and lows on the actual makeup, I'm going to go to the shape of the eye. I think that could be a good idea. The same thing that I did before. Let's kind of like follow the same pattern or the same step. I'm going to do the iris. The iris. Um, I am absolutely having an amazing time right now. There's nothing that makes me happier than being engaged with this process. Um, so I hope you guys, um, I know that this is not easy, but you take a minute to also enjoy that. I feel really lucky. Um, so I'm just a little bit right here. The bottom eyelid is not dark. There is some pink in there. So I'm just gonna bring the pink. Okay, so a little bit. This is moving in a direction that I'm okay. But at the same time, as I said, um, it's gonna take a while. So this will transform dramatically, and know that that potential of transformation of your work is what has value. Um, Rather than judging the result of the moment, just think that we are working towards something that's going to transform beautifully. The, and ultimately, I feel like um, it's uh, it's not just um, what should I say? A fact? No, I shouldn't say fact. I should say that this is uh, a premise of our choosing, if I may say this. I choose to see it this way. I choose to see this as painting with an immense potential. And right now, I am at the beginning um, of that process. And again, that also helps me feel a little bit less anxious about what I'm doing, a little bit less anxious. I try to find my own tricks and ways to remain positive and also, very importantly, remain committed. Because I know that that's possibly the most important thing I could do for my work in order to push it forward, um, to remain committed. Yeah, that's a good, I think I would say that's a good, oh, this is so beautiful. Sorry, guys. I'm so happy about how this is kind of like moving forward. Oh, just, I missed painting clowns, you guys. I think it was like 2018 last time. I still have the folder. We did such an amazing job. I'm going to bring the photos of that because it was so remarkable. It was so good.
Please do. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. We did an amazing job, and those paintings are incredible. All right, so okay, good. So as I said, we're just going to give ourselves 5 more minutes. So that means that I still have like 10 minutes to continue pushing the work. I'm happy about the eye. I feel like now that I did the eye, I need to work on the mouth, and there needs to be sort of like a darker. I recognize a darker line, a darker line. And again, I try not to be super exact because I'm bringing that concept that I read from the description of the date farmer's work we're creating something out of different components and parts. And I want to approach my painting from that point of view, the point of view of this not being a carefully methodic arrangement of precise brushstrokes. I feel like with the clouds, we did that because, all the variations and stuff. Oh, I'm in love with this already. But with this, I want to be a little bit more like scratchy and not as uh, defining. Let's put it this way. All right, the nostril. I'm just gonna again. I'm just repositioning things. The nostril is much more to the left. Some of the movement that I recognize, it just moves a lot. That edge is never steady. Um, this painting is a lot like the restless leg syndrome. It doesn't stay steady. It constantly moves. Sorry if you are suffering from that because it's awful. We don't do a very good job finding analogies connecting painting with syndromes, right, Jen? Well, the last one was the ADD.
Oh
Yeah,
man, I
I
have
know.
leg syndrome. It's terrible.
I know. It's scary.
Oy, oy, oy.
Um, anyhow, so yeah, don't mind me. I think. All right. So I realize that the chin, my gosh, it's so much lower. What happened here? I just didn't realize that there's so much more space below the chin, and I think that is going to be so important to bring that um, forward. Amazing how I wasn't able to really recognize it, but I see it. I need a little bit more space. I feel like, I want to make the figure a little bit more mature, and I feel like the smaller chin immediately um, reduces the age, I guess, of the figure. So I need to make the chin a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. All right, so okay, that's good. The ear, I'm just gonna do later, but I'm gonna bring the darker nodes lower because I feel like I need to sculpt the shape at least a little bit more. Okay, and this needs to be shaved a little bit on the side. So perhaps I'm not working on the background, entire background, but I am working on the edge that separates the background. I need to just make the neck also shrink it a little bit more or narrow it a little bit more. It's way too wide. So this is a process of applying different values, but completely reshaping and changing and shifting the positions of the edges. It just never stops. The more I add, the more I realize that I need to move and shift things around. So understand that painting, it's not just having a line and then filling it up inside and then bringing different colors inside of the line to make it more exciting. That's not what painting is. Um, yeah, so let me just bring some shadows inside of the ear, but I think that is some darker shadows. I think it needs to be a little bit darker so that will contribute in time wise. Perfect. We have still 5 minutes. My goodness, that's very good. All right. So then what? I love the maybe the separation. Perhaps no. I'm just gonna keep it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna let me just bring the line and see if that looks good. The darker line. because I envision this more instead of like a mask, um, a juxtaposition of masks. Yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea. Yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea. All right, I'm deciding to actually put the little separation between the colors of the mask. I'm gonna bring now the cheekbone. It's a little lighter. So I'm gonna enhance the value right there. Again, I'm doing second notes. That's all I'm doing, second notes, and I'm concentrated in one single spot, which is the face. I need to bring that pink lower. So I'm just gonna move that shape a little bit lower and make it a little bit more predominant. That blue needs to be reshaped. It's constantly, I'm constantly working on the edges of things. So I'm doing three, I would say, if I had to explain, I'm doing three things at the same time. I am working on edge quality. I am working on value distinctions. And what will be the third? Kind of like, but let's just put, it's going to come to my brain, but uh, edge quality and position. I'm working on the position of the edges. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the position of the edges. Yeah, I guess edge quality and position of the edges are two different things. So I think that's good. So this is a little bit darker. So I'm gonna bring the paints gray and darken this. And I'm using a small brush. I think that's good. Um, Reminding myself that what's important here also is that the brush stroke feels broken and hatched, almost as a conceptual link to creating an outfit out of scraps, creating an outfit out of um, garbage, discarded materials. I should say the word discarded materials, not the word garbage, but why not? So, yeah, I like that aspect, even with brushstrokes. So, whoopsie, that's a lot of lighter notes. But yeah, I'm just bringing highs and lows. If you notice, it's a little bit far away, but I'm bringing highs and lows within the same area of the eye, but that's contained on the makeup. Highs and lows on the blue, bringing some purple, and I'm hatching. I'm just not. Yeah, and that's every time that I just look at something, I realize I have an opportunity to bring a shadow, a value, and I think that's going well. So let me just bring um, the ecru and start closing some gaps because I realize that sometimes when I get really engaged, I feel like I still have gaps from the beginning of the process, from the drawing. So it's not a bad idea to just uh, close the dry spots, the gaps, the charcoal showing, in order to bring everything together, bring all those scraps together, all those scraps together. So that's something that I did on the upper part. So I'm gonna venture myself, and even like 2 minutes before I conclude this, and say, now I'm going to blend on the actual painting. I try to avoid this as much as possible, but I feel like now I can blend a little bit more, a very strategic way. So it just feels a little bit more of that cylindric shape. Good, good. So I'm just gonna bring some of the pink and with a little bit of zinc white, because zinc white, it's an excellent blending. Why? Yeah, that's a lot of zinc white. A little blending, an excellent blending color, and also it keeps the pigmentation of the colors. I just want to bring a little bit of that light with this zinc white. That's amazing. avoiding any kind of like chalkiness. Good, I'm happy about that. Something white going onto the actual chin. That's gonna help me make the chin a little bit bigger on this area. So that automatically it's making, ah, come on. I'm in love. So a little bit warmer right here, a little bit warmer um, values, doing bone structure right here. So, and blending a little bit. So I feel like it's too much of a mark, but I'm getting too much into details. All right, you guys. So I am going to conclude my initial first pass on this painting